This episode of Nuff Said is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code SOUTHGATE to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
In our world, there are heroes and there are devils. But in the kitchen of hell, the hero is the devil. Welcome to the devil you know. Greetings, dear listeners. I am your host, Charlie the Professor Esser. And with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz. Always glad to have you back as we are trudging into the new season of Daredevil, season 3, doing episode 2 tonight. Please. Grieving for the life he's abandoned, Matt suffers a crisis of faith. Fisk makes a deal with the FBI that turns him into a target. Tonight's director is Lucas Etlin. Our writers, of course, we got Stan the Man Lee, and Bill Everett getting those Marvel Comics created by credits. Way down the list, we got Drew Goddard getting our created by, Jim Dunn getting our written by. Our story editor is Tanya Kong, and of course, Sarah Streecher is our uncredited hardest working woman in show business this week, our staff writer. Okay. Oh, this is actually I really like this episode. I think it sets us up in a very nice spot. We open up with a little bit of a dipitch. You know, we get the two sides of Matt and Wilson
Fisk.
Yes, both seemingly in their moments of despair. Matt just got his butt handed to him by a couple of thugs that he was trying to beat up.
Right. I mean, he invited it, though.
Well, yes, absolutely. He invited it. And Wilson, as we see, has made the fateful decision to turn rat. And we do see that we get our busting up of the Albanians. And
the Mother Teresa. That was cool. Well, the leader of the Albanians had a Mother Teresa tattoo, and you get the sense that that's what they called him in the office, in the FBI offices, I guess. He goes, Mother Teresa, you got him, and I was like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, well, hey, it's what you call your ironic name. Wilson has turned rat, all in the hopes, presumably, saving his lady.
Or getting her immunity, right, from any prosecution.
And it is interesting. We see, of course, our FBI agent. He is riding high on this. Ray Nadim is doing well, but there is pushback on him.
Right, because I mean everybody wants to take the credit, but I thought that scene where he fights for his due was interesting. Like he grew some gumption and said, no, this is, and she went along with it, I thought it was a cool moment.
Well, it's an interesting take on this thing, because, I've often said, and this was my real feeling with this character, that, sending him to Wilson Fisk when he is seen as being so compromised is like the absolute worst.
Well, I mean, then it makes me think, like, maybe it wasn't that he was so compromised. It's just that was a way for them to, weed the fields, so to speak. I mean, so many people can get promotions. I'm sure a lot of people deserve it. So I think bureaucratically, some of these mechanisms are put in place to have a logistical reason for denying somebody upward mobility,
Oh, yeah. And I think that's one way to look at it. I do think
that's how I saw it. Because, I don't think he's like a bad agent. He's just like as good as any of the other agents. And when he believes in himself, I'm sure he's capable of doing good things. Seems like a decent enough agent.
Yeah. Well, this was was going to be my point about him being this compromised, is that I kind of feel in these set of scenes, you see how essentially he knows that he's now due for this pay bump. he knows that he's in this spot, and he is essentially pushing harder because he feels he earned this. He feels that he's the one that got Fisk to talk. Feels that he and Fisk actually connected over something, and that Fisk, and for what it's worth, they do say that the best interrogation methods are actually not any kind of extreme deprivation, but simply getting the subject to identify with you, to basically just to start talking about baseball, and then eventually they start telling you all their secret plans because now they see you as just a comrade, not necessarily as their interrogator. And in this case, I do think that there is this quality that, and I think it's meant to get under his skin, from a story point of view, that they're like, yeah, you did good, but let's face it, this is you got lucky, this is out of your league, and we're gonna take this from you. And it is nice to see him fight back, and it is nice to see him declare himself, as the guy who got to Wilson Fisk. Although there's a quality of that I do think is a bit hubristic. Like he is saying, I'm the one that got to Fisk, and not that Fisk was just which is the other perspective, you were just the right agent there at the right time. That Fisk is going through things. Fisk was ready to deal to help his lady out, but
But I think that's what you'd expect of him in that situation. It's like he's got a family to feed. He knows he's in debt, and he says so right at the end. He goes, how else do you expect me to get out from underneath all of this? So so his survival instinct is at play. So he knows the best way for him to get out of this hole is to paint this narrative and make them buy it, because he has no other choice. He's pushing so hard because the wall is pushing really hard against his back. So I think if he paints it that way, and if he gets her to buy it, he gets to be in a position that whether it was his or not, he's going to take it.
And I think a quality of this, is just that, he does have to take it, and he does, this is his one shot, because essentially if he lets this go, he's going to go back to whatever the latest, undesirable detail is. He got this was something that fell into his lap, but now that he has it, now that he's got this ticket, he is not going to let it go for anybody. And he makes the strong case, and he does get to keep his case, but then of course then they have to basically make the same case to other people, because essentially, as happens to rats in prison, someone decides to take out Wilson Fisk. Which I think is an interesting thing to see happen when you compare it with when we saw him in the first episode, where he is basically in this position to, yell quiet and everyone gets quiet. But in this situation, so he there seems to be some loss of fear for him. And of course, it reminds me of what Shades had said about, when he turned on Mariah. And he says, there's no place for me to go. I can't go back to being a criminal. No one's going to respect me or treat me with any opportunity as this once I've testified or given this information. And the fact of the matter is, this is where Wilson finds himself, at least presumably,
Yeah, I just don't buy it that he's this helpless creature caught in the whirlwind of everything that's happening, and he's just lapping and trying to stay afloat. I think there's a grand plan. I think he's far too cunning and far too clever for this not to be a ploy. Even being stabbed, like if someone wanted to come stab him, they should have gotten him, or should have gotten more. It's like you're fighting Wilson Fisk. So I think maybe that was planned for him to, get out or be,
Yeah, you're. I think you're thinking very well on that.
Yeah, because I refuse to accept this weakened character as being Wilson Fisk. I just like how he sees himself. It doesn't jive with that. So the only reasonable explanation to take from this is that this is all part of a bigger plan that he is controlling.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that's pretty neat. And one of the things I liked about that scene when he does get stabbed, though, is basically, and again, like you said, there is something suspect about someone going to stab Wilson, and they do miss
Right.
all the right places because he just gets up from it, beats the guy up, and then clearly could have murdered him there, shows mercy, which is logical because obviously there is no stand your ground law for prisoners. If he kills a guy in prison,
the deal goes out the window.
Well, not even necessarily the deal, but it's just he's never going to get out. I mean, there's no, yeah. I mean, yeah, and the deal goes out the window. Basically, it would complicate things far too much. Yeah. I found that to be an interesting take there with Wilson just deciding to sit back down as the cops burst in or the guards burst in, and making that choice not to show his ability to still scare people, like he or basically just that he had done enough at that point.
Right. Right. I mean, even he's not ruled by emotions. He's still a calculating, cerebral person. He's not ruled by his emotions or his anger.
Yes.
He sees the bigger picture at all times.
Yes. We also got an interesting, I mean, a kind of a small world coincidence kind of aspect of this, I think, is that as Karen Page, she's still, focusing on Midland Circle, and she gets sent out on this other job, which she doesn't want to start with,
right?
Because some Paris Hilton type, celebrity debutante gets attacked. Her dad gets, put in the hospital, and they need someone to go interview her. And Karen begrudgingly takes the job, and we find out, these are the people that Daredevil had saved the previous night. Which is a little small worldy.
A little convenient.
Yeah, it's very convenient, and yeah, like I say, interesting in the fact that it just seems a little Deus Ex Machina, I guess. A little too easy that's how she got to that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Especially since she's like, oh, I don't want to do that job.
Right.
I think it could have been better had she. Well, I guess there's no way to write
some extra reason to go there and make it reasonable that it was there for the other purpose as well.
Mm-hmm.
But,
and this guy's a real estate guy. I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't have been that hard to write in that he had some tie to Midland Circle as well.
Yeah, that definitely was a bit of oversight or laziness. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, as with all these things, you have so much story you're trying to tell.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, this is a very complex story. This is a lot of moving parts in it.
Yeah.
In fact, I think this is the first time that Karen reveals. I think she says in this episode when she's trying to connect with the young debutante that people think she killed her brother.
Yeah.
And that's the first we really got on that. We knew there was something going on with her brother. We've seen hints and suggestions about what her past is, but this is the first time we really get this idea that, people think she killed her brother.
So, yeah, that's interesting. In my mind, I immediately relegated it to, like, the person she was caught when she awoke, the body that she was found with, So, but that wasn't her brother. That was her boyfriend.
Wait, what was this?
This is, remember her original introduction story is that she comes to in a room and somebody's dead and they're accusing her. That wasn't the brother that she's talking about here?
No. That's not. Or if it was, then I think they've retconned it for this series.
No, but I do remember something extra being mysterious about her past, like her brother. That sounds kind of familiar. So I'm wondering if like there's two people that she's been accused of supposedly killing. That's interesting.
Yeah. So that, no, because we actually do get like her whole backstory later on this season.
Ah.
And it's a pretty interesting backstory, and it really.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
It deconstructs the basic Karen Page mythos that we have in the comic, but at the same time also tells it in a way that you don't see what their choices they're making coming, and I think it plays out very nicely. So, I will tell you, I have already watched the whole season, so I do know, how things seem in one scene may not be what they actually wind up playing, but I'm trying to present myself as seeing this all like I felt when I first saw it. Like the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, that is interesting how they're playing it out. Daredevil, Matt, is still investigating, wants to figure out why the dry cleaning van attacked the guy.
Right.
And he goes and investigates and finds that it is something, apparently a front, I guess, for I'm guessing they're the Albanians, I'm not sure.
Yeah, but I couldn't figure out what it was a front for.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it seems like it's a safe. I mean, it could just be that this is their weapons store. This is kind of their safe house. Obviously, the dry cleaner is the front business for some criminal activity.
Right.
And the question that we have, and honestly, I don't know the answer to this right now, is this one of Fisk's operations, or is this the Albanians' operations that Fisk is ratting out on? Or perhaps someone else's operations, It is interesting. Yeah, I'm not quite sure, because actually, I'll be honest with you, I don't remember exactly how all these pieces fit together.
Yeah, no, because I don't think, from my perspective, just having seen these episodes, I didn't get a sense that they were attached to anybody or any interest.
Hey, well, clearly there's an interest because,
Right, but I don't have an inkling as to who it's pointing to yet.
And that might be, that's a good thing. Makes it more enjoyable. Meanwhile, we do have the reality that after he is attacked, and survives and doesn't kill the guy, Wilson actually has a bit more leverage. Because it is this idea that, now that he is ratting people out, he needs to be protected.
Right.
And honestly, I'm like a little, really? They're just going to give him back the penthouse?
Yeah.
But, I guess, he is
being
a little
Pablo Escobar-ish.
Yeah. Well, he is giving them what they need,
Right.
And they are monitoring him. And for what it's worth, his statement that he is persona non grata in the criminal community is again reemphasized as his convoy gets attacked. And it is just a bloodbath.
I thought it was such a great scene.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it is a great scene, especially because we do get Point Dexter in this.
So what's his backstory? Who is he in the comics? Because he's got to be somebody. He's too good.
Oh yeah, he is. Well, I will. Well, let me put it. You notice how he is so good at shooting people,
and so wired all the time.
Well, yeah, that as well. But
is he on the Simpson juice?
No. He is actually Bullseye. And Bullseye is like one of Daredevil's like primary nemesis, and he is just like, he's, as they say, he has like, preternatural aim. Basically, and he's the guy who killed Elektra in the comics.
What I really liked about this scene was that a few things. First of all, when everything is happening and he wants to wake up Nadim, and it almost seems like he wants to wake him up so Nadim doesn't get hurt. Partially because he's sort of his lifeline, and partially also because I think he genuinely likes the guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I thought was cool. And then secondly, when the firing goes off, man, it's like he plays this character so honestly. you know, in the moments where there's no bravado needed, there is none there. He's playing the character honestly, and like he's fearful for his life. He thinks this might be the end, and he's completely freaking out, and he plays that, but still with like a sense of control and power. You know, like I'm still like in charge. It's phenomenal. That scene was so amazing in that respect, I thought.
Oh yeah, I mean, you'll get no argument from me on there. I mean, I think we can all agree that this is so much Vincent D'Onofrio's show. You know, Vincent D'Onofrio really. I am so hopeful that Vincent D'Onofrio is going to get to come into the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. That we're going to see lots more. I want him to face off against Spider-Man in these movies, because you know Kingpin, he's so much associated with Daredevil, but he's actually a Spider-Man villain.
Right.
You know, he actually started out in the pages of Spider-Man, so it's actually interesting that Marvel even got him, because I think Sony could have made all kinds of arguments that Daredevil Wilson Fisk belonged to them, but you know, I love the fact that he is there, and as he is just such a fantastic actor for this character, and he really embodies him in such an excellent way.
Yeah.
And you know, D'Onofrio, for what it's worth, he is like the premier method actor. He really does like to embody a role.
Yeah.
In the physicality of the role. And yeah, I don't think he's going to be putting any horse heads in any of his castmates' beds. You know, I don't think he's going to be.
No.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be a guy who's problematic about it. But I think he's the kind of guy who can get inside the character's head in such a way, and physically embody it, and become who this guy is. And I love him in this role for that.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think I'd love to see him in the broader cinematic universe too, but I think if they're killing all of this off, it would raise unnecessary questions about, you know, which timeline is involved or which characters are the main ones, if they even one. So if they're probably not gonna allow him back, which is terrible and sad.
Well, the truth of it is that, and it's only 2 years that Disney cannot use these characters.
Yeah, but I gotta imagine at that point the actors themselves, are they gonna be in a position, or will the market be as acceptable to them, or will it be just as easy to cast? You know,
Well, what I'll say is that by Spider-Man 3, all these characters are on the table. So it wouldn't surprise me if they don't show up in Spider-Man 3. Whether it's Daredevil, whether it's Kingpin. They'll all be available and on the market by Spider-Man 3. So, I mean, that's the hope. And honestly, I don't know if anyone is going to be as good as the Kingpin after D'Onofrio.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other people who could do it. You can certainly take him in other ways. You can go, like Michael Clark Duncan was an amazing Kingpin.
Yeah.
In the first Daredevil film. You know, I mean, even John Rhys-Davies brought his own qualities to the Kingpin character in the first TV outing of Daredevil. That was in Trial of the Incredible Hulk. But I think that D'Onofrio really defined the character in such a way that I think it's going to be hard for someone else to come in that Kingpin role and not immediately be judged negatively.
Right.
Against the D'Onofrio characterization.
No, I couldn't agree more.
And for what it's worth, from everything D'Onofrio said, he loves playing this character.
It certainly shows.
And he is more than happy to come back as many times as you want him to, because they pay him each time. And you know, D'Onofrio, he has money. He has some Law and Order money. He's doing okay for himself, but he's not in that spot where he can just say no to well-written acting work. You know.
Right.
Like, he doesn't really, like, he can pass on, I'm sure he passes on a lot of poorly written acting work, but when something's well written and it's a job, I think he's going to say, you know, I kind of need to take that. And so I am hoping by Spider-Man 3, we do get Kingpin there, because that would be That would be really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what else is going on in this episode?
Does it end with the shootout, or?
Well, it ends with the shoot. Well, it ends with Fisk's being saved, everyone going to the hospital, and Daredevil, who is also at the hospital for reasons, essentially hearing. Basically, you show that his hearing's back again. His ears have stopped ringing, so he's got the full use of his powers again. And just as he gets that, he hears all of the aftermath from the attack on the convoy, and basically hears that Wilson Fisk has been set free. That he's out of prison.
In a manner of speaking, yeah.
In a manner of speaking, yes.
It was this episode where we got young Matt in church listening to people.
Was he listening to people? I mean, I think so. We did get young Matt in this. I know that he was talking to the priest.
Right.
In bad young guy makeup, but I guess maybe that's that advantage. Anyone who ever went to Catholic school knows there's always that priest who's always been old. And when you go back 20 years later, he's still old, which makes sense because why would he stop being old? But it's also like, man, you're just around forever, aren't you?
Man, he's riding those 60s real well.
Yes, well, it's like so many actors. You go bald at that young age. You just go right into that old guy role, and you just get to play it forever. So I want to imagine that happens in real life too. The young Matt scene is nice because it does have that whole quality of Matt being a lawyer. Why did basically what can you not did I do it, but what can you prove?
Right.
And also, because he doesn't want to go to catechism because the teacher he feels is not adequate. She could not explain the concept of original sin. And the priest says, well, she's not a theologian. She's just a catechism teacher. You probably know more about the doctrine of original sin than she does. And it's like, then why do I have to listen to her? And that, these are nice scenes. These are great bits looking back at Matt. I also like his interactions with Sister Maggie, and her investment in him, and her essentially not taking any of his self-pitying BS,
Right.
Because I do
Which
feel
at
that
this point is getting a little annoying. It's just like, come on, Matt, stop being so one note.
Yeah, I mean, really, he is very one note. There's no argument there. He is very much. Just I don't know what I want to say, but
he's lucky. They've got good characters surrounding him and good writing to give to those characters.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of in that. He's almost in that Iron Fisty level of whining.
It's like I never saw it before. Or maybe it just hadn't crossed that threshold yet. But man, he's not a terribly deep character.
Yeah, well, I mean, not for nothing, he is a guy who dresses in pajamas and punches people. So,
right.
It's not like even his motivation is that deep. It really is just this. I got a fist. I should punch something with it. But I think that can be said about a lot of superheroes. I think most superheroes. There are a few exceptions, but I think most superheroes are always made more interesting by their supporting cast. That even when a character has like something interesting about them, you really usually are coming in for that supporting cast because it's less about what the superhero does and more about how everyone else is affected by what they do. Right. And so I do think that in Matt's self-pitying wallowing, I think that, how this affects Sister Maggie, how this affects the priest, how this affects Karen and Foggy are all very interesting, Is this the episode where Matt meets Foggy in the bar?
No, that's the next one.
That's the next one. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah, that is a crazy conversation.
Yeah, well, that's the Daredevil for you.
My God, it's outrageous.
Anyway, any final thoughts on tonight's episode?
It was a kind of a slow episode, but got to meet Bullseye. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think that I will say I liked this episode a lot. I do think you're right. It is slow, but I think it peels back layers and really opens the story up, so that I think when we start to get to faster moving stories, this is where we're shifting up the gears, and I can appreciate that.
Right on.
Okay, so Mozz, if people would like to talk to you about all the things there are to talk about, how can they find you?
They can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZ MANZOOR.
And of course, you can always write to me in the old-fashioned email way, the way our Mozz and Poz once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitters as I live tweet all sorts of things. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Gotham, whatever I feel like, at Charlie Esser, the Orville. That's CHARLIEESSER. Look for the 2 E's in the middle. For quality. Ping! No, it's okay, man. Thank you for joining me once again. And thank you, dear listeners, for joining us here once again in the kitchen of hell. Remember, as you walk down those dark streets, and you will face heroes and devils, it is always best to